Andrew Carnegie, steel industrialist and philanthropist and railroad transportation innovator. Since the discovery of the steel processing process of steel Bessemer, steel mills have successfully replaced iron and become the most important industrial material that shapes modern human life. The steel industry, foundries, metal processing, mechanical engineering are the main framework of the modern world manufacturing industry. The metal working sector combines a variety of heterogeneous activities, providing technology, services, and equipment for all other industrial sectors, and also finished products. In France and other developed countries, this sector represents more than 50% of the manufacturing industry. At the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th, largest steel mill in the world was the Barrow Hematite Steel Company steel plant located in Barrow-in-Furness, England. At present, the largest steel plant in the world is in Gyeongyang, South Korea. The steel processing industry actually reached a level of efficiency and standardization when a Scottish immigrant opened a steel processing business in the United States. Andrew Carnegie is a Scottish-American businessman known for running the U.S. Steel, a large steelmaker and integrated heavy industry company. While working for the train, Carnegie began investing. He made many wise choices and found that his investments, especially those in oil, brought huge returns. He left the train in 1865 to focus on other business interests, including the Keystone Bridge Company. In the following decade, Britain and the United States dedicated their economies to the development of bridge and building infrastructure that uses processed steel products from the steel industry. In the United States, Andrew Carnegie, November 25, 1835, August 11, 1919, pioneered the development of the steel industry to be used as a railroad connection that connects coastal land to the interior of the United States. In 1889, he owned the Carnegie Steel Corporation, the largest of its kind in the world. In 1901, he sold his business and dedicated his time to expanding his philanthropic work, including the founding of Carnegie Mellon University in 1904. This early to late strategy helped Carnegie become the dominant force in the industry and become a very wealthy person. It also made him known as one of America's builders, because his business helped drive the economy and shape the nation to what it is today. In 1889, the Carnegie Steel Company was the largest of its kind in the world. His business, which became known as the Carnegie Steel Company, revolutionized steel production in the United States. Carnegie built factories throughout the country, using technology and methods that made steel making easier, faster, and more productive. For each step of the process, he has what he needs: raw materials, ships and railroad to transport goods, and even coal fields for fueling the steel furnace. Some political and social figures in America at the time felt that the company's success came at the expense of its workers. The most prominent case of this occurred in 1892, when the company tried to reduce wages at the Carnegie Steel factory in Homestead, Pennsylvania. Employees objected. They refused to work, starting what was called the Homestead Strike in 1892. The conflict between workers and local managers turned violent after the manager called guards to break up the union. While Carnegie was away at the time of the strike, many still held him responsible for the actions of his manager. Andrew Carnegie was born on November 25, 1835, in Dunfermline, Scotland. After moving to the United States, he worked on a series of railroad jobs. Although he had little formal education, Carnegie grew up in a family that believed in the importance of books and learning. As the son of a hen weaver, Carnegie grew to become one of the richest businessmen in America. At the age of 13, in 1848, Carnegie came to the United States with his family. They settled in Allegheny, Pennsylvania, and Carnegie went to work in a factory, making $1.20 a week. The following year he found work as a telegraph courier. Hoping to advance his career, he moved to the position of telegraph operator in 1851. He then took a job on the Pennsylvania Railroad in 1853. He worked as an assistant and telegrapher to Thomas Scott, one of the top railroad officials. Through this experience, he learned about the railroad industry and about business in general. 3 years later, Carnegie was promoted to supervisor. In his will, Andrew Carnegie gave prize money to several funds, institutions, the community, and the University of Pittsburgh. He also gives gifts to employees and their families. Carnegie has provided nearly $350,000 for charity, pensions, schools, libraries, and museums. Carnegie had given all of that money because after the disaster outside his company, people thought he was a bad person. He thought by giving all that money people would think he was good. Andrew Carnegie was very generous in the will he created through the state of New York. When he retired, he was one of the richest people in America. He used a large amount of his money to fund charity. This charity gives money to universities. He has a hall built for himself called Carnegie Hall, and he also built a public library called Carnegie Libraries.